Apparently, threats from Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis is what led to the United States carrying out the first strikes against Iran. In fact, Marco Rubio says that there was absolutely an imminent threat, and it was that we knew that if Iran was attacked by Israel, and we believe that they would be attacked, they would immediately come after us, and we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow. In other words, Israel was gonna attack, and if they did that, Iran was gonna attack the United States, so we decided to attack first. That was the rationale. If you think that's a good reason to attack a country, and if you think that Israel is somehow an ally to the United States, hopefully you are as far away from making decisions about foreign policy as humanly possible. Now, let's check in with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who wrote on X, quote, "We are in a campaign in which we are bringing the full might of the IDF as never before to this battle to ensure our existence and our future." Mind you, we're talking about a country that has a clandestine nuclear program and is not in any way threatened. Its existence is not threatened in any way. He continues, "But we are also bringing to this campaign the support of the United States, my friend, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the US military. 6 of our soldiers have already died for Israel in this war." He continues, "This combination of forces enables us to do what I have longed to do for 40 years, to strike the terrorist regime hip and thigh. That is what I promised, and that is what we will do." Speaking of the Israeli government, by the way, today Secretary of State Marco Rubio did make that statement that I read to you earlier. I wanted to read you what he said. Now I want you to watch what he said. Take a look.
The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's 2 reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
He continued to say, "We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we'd suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher than those killed." So let me just say, then the enemy is Israel. The enemy is Israel. If you're worried about Israel launching an attack, which would then make American soldiers in the region vulnerable to Iran's attacks, then Israel is not an ally. But he would never say that, of course.
Yeah, there was 2 admissions there. So first is, so Israel did push us into the war.
Of course.
You said, well, Israel was gonna attack, so we didn't have a choice. Well, here's a choice. Hey, Israel, we've given you $330 billion. If you attack without getting our permission, you won't get a single more dollar, and we will not help your attack. Who's the boss of who? Because if you just listen to Marco Rubio there, you would think that Israel is the much larger nation. We're the tiny little nation, and we got to listen to them because they're so powerful. Well, if Israel was going to go, then we were forced to go. Why? He just admitted we have no control over Israel, and they have complete control over us. But the second part is even worse. Did Israel use that as leverage against us? Hey, we could go without you, and if we do, then your guys will be caught off guard and a lot more Americans will die. So you better attack when we tell you. That's what it sounded like he said.
That's exactly, but that's what happened, Cenk. That's what happened. These are not our allies, okay?
That's not an ally, man.
They use and abuse, they don't care about our lives, they don't care about our soldiers' lives. They suck the life out of this country. And now they're looking to India to see if they could suck the life out of that country. And looks like Narendra Modi opening up his legs to Israel. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And that can't happen soon enough, by the way. Okay, I would love to have Israel off our backs because they are destroying our country. They dragged us into previous conflicts and wars that we should have not been involved in at all. And now we're sucked into this war, which has escalated. It's become a regional war.
Can I just real quick on I met a Muslim man from India today. He's not the end all be all, it's just one guy, right? But what he told me was, yeah, Israel's now working with the Indian government. And what Israel is doing is driving hatred towards Muslims, just like they did here in the US, so that India will help Israel attack their Muslim neighbors.
Unfortunately, that was already a thing in India. So
but no, exactly right. So they're like, oh, there's a little bit of a fire there. Let's pour fuel on that fire. Right. And so, and he said now his relatives are getting attacked in northern India because they've riled up the Hindus so much. Remember, hate the Muslims, hate the Muslims. Same guys who complain about bigotry nonstop. Anti-Semitism. They're like, hate the Muslims in India, in America, everywhere. Their whole driving agenda is hate the Muslims so you help murder them for us and so we can take their land. And these are the guys complaining about bigotry. Please, the Israelis, we have to get them out of our government completely. Let India deal with them, okay? Wherever they're gonna go next. But get them all right, anyway, get them out of our government because they're dug in. So look at our Secretary of State like a dog going there going, well, Israel ordered us to, so we had to go. Otherwise, more Americans would have died. And so obviously, since we can't disagree with the mighty Israelis, before more Americans died for Israel, we had to attack so that other Americans would die for Israel. So my last question in that regard is, who's going to be the last American to die for Israel in this war? Already 6 Americans dead. And we're gonna keep track, and every day they're gonna add new dead Americans for Israel's war. This has nothing to do with us. Nothing. Their ballistic missiles can't reach us. Their nuclear facilities are obliterated twice over. Their entire regime is killed. 49 dead, including the Ayatollah. Nothing to do with us. But no, all of the politicians, the disgusting corrupt politicians in DC, the disgusting corrupt media, all telling us, no, you have to bow your head. And if you dare object to Israel, we're gonna call you names and try to eliminate you from the national conversation. But they have no control here.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.